Hey everyone, Paul Johnson, Waconia, Minnesota, and the Laughing Trout Fly Tying Club. Today I'm retying an old pattern called a Timberwolf. I'm not really sure where it came from. I think it was a gaping fly. I like it in spring and summer for sunfish. So what I'll typically do is tie this on behind a woolly bugger and try to catch sunfish or panfish. And sometimes if it works out well, if you catch one on that front fly, the woolly bugger, and this one will swing free, and the sunfish are really aggressive, you can actually catch two at one time. So that's kind of fun. I tie it on a size 8 Tiemco 24.99. It's a barbless hook. Any size 8 scud hook or emerger type hook would work fine. I do put a little bit of a red tail on there, and this is just some red EP fibers. The body is yellow dubbing, and then it also has peacock herl for the main body. I do put a ribbing of small gold wire. The thorax is some peacock super bright dubbing. The collar is hand hackle, and we'll get started. For thread, I'm going to be using some red 14-aught. Any 8-aught would work fine. Really, for the smaller thread, just works well for wrapping that hand hackle in for the collar. I've got that tuft of red Puglisi fibers, EP fibers. Just tie that in, and just want to make sure we keep it right on top of the hook shank. That tied in good. And I'm going to cut this off. Not even a hook gap in length, just a little tuft there. Next, I do have a piece of small gold wire. I'm going to tie that in on my side of the hook and keep it right in line with the hook shank. Next, I'm going to add the yellow dubbing. Any yellow dubbing. This is super fine dubbing. Actually going to add quite a bit of it, so take me a couple go arounds here. Reaching around the camera. All right. And then we want to just build that up a little bit. So a pretty pronounced yellow spot in the back. Add just a little bit more. That should do it. All right. Next, I've got 3 strands of peacock herl. I'm just going to clip the tips of them even. What I like to do is kind of just tie it in and almost the length of the body here. And I've got them tied in good. I'm going to come up to about 80% mark on the hook. I'll use my rotary feature in my vise. So I'll throw a half hitch in there and hang it from the bobbin cradle. And then just wrap that peacock forward. Gives it just a nice looking body with this peacock herl. All right, we can tie that off at that point. Cut that excess. So now I'm going to take that wire. I tied it on my side of the hook because I'm going to counter wrap it. Last week somebody asked why I counter wrap wire, and it's really more habit than anything. But in this case, it actually is an advantage because everything was wrapped the way the thread is. And if you just tied the wire in that same way, it's kind of get buried in there. And this way it's going to stand out a little bit more, and you actually be able to see the rib a little bit more, especially when that herl gets wet, than you can here. And it's not going to get buried in there. Bring that all the way up to the eye of the hook. Secure that, and you can either helicopter that off or I'll just take the fingernail clippers and cut that excess. So now I've got some of that peacock dubbing. So it's a Wapsi product, and it's their super bright dubbing, and the color is peacock. And just about every other video I do, you'll probably see this material. And what I'm using this for at this point is just to create kind of a thorax or a dubbing ball that's going to keep that hen hackle splayed out a little bit more, so it doesn't just compress around the hook shank when it gets wet. Okay, that'll do it. If we got anything too long here, I'll just kind of sweep that back. So now what I do is I take the hen hackle, I strip off all of the fuzzies, grab it with the tweezers right at the tip, and then I'm going to cut that off at kind of a triangle and just give my thread something to bite into there so it doesn't slip out. So I'm tying this in by the tip of the feather. Grab that with my hackle pliers. And then again, this first wrap, that feather is pretty fragile. So we're really not putting any tension on that wrap. As I come around here, I'll kind of try to fold everything back. Probably get one for sure, maybe two more wraps of this. And that's going to about do it. Okay, so now I'll make a wrap of tying thread behind the feather and in front of the feather. And I'm going to take my thread and hang it behind the adjustment knob on my vise. And I can come in here and cut that excess feather off. And what we don't want to have happen at this point is for that bobbin to hit the tabletop. So that worked good. So I'll just kind of come in with my fingertips and pull everything back and get a hold of it. And then with my tying thread, I'll create a nice looking head. And this is where that red thread, you can build up a really nice looking head, and that red stands out. And if you want, you can hit it with a little bit of UV resin just to keep that shine to it. And a whip finish. And there we have it, a Timberwolf. Maybe never heard of this pattern before, but you can see that this is going to be one of the favorite for the Panfish. So I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a try.